sometimes you want global styles. Sometimes you want to maybe reset or normalize your UI. So let's go ahead and install a really cool package. So open your terminal. We're going to save npm I, so npm install polished. It's called polished. So let me go to the site. So polished. If you look this up, we get a bunch of nail salons. So it's polishedjs.org. Okay, this has a ton of really cool features that you can use with your code. Something that might be really useful is visually hide, I think it was called. Let me see, hide visually. This is so great for accessibility. If you need to add additional text, like a hidden description for assistive technology, hiding something visually is really hard. You can't write display none. It'll remove that from the document, and it won't be read aloud. So having these little tools that you can use to do things, like we're going to use normalize. These are really useful. And we're going to use them just like a function call within our curly brackets. Okay, so Polished has now been installed. I'm going to go back to full screen on this. So inside of utils, let's add a new file called global.js. I'm going to capitalize it because we're going to instantiate it like a React component or like an HTML component. So global.js, and we're going to import three things. So import create global style from styled components. We'll import our primary font. Now, we can't, since this is in the same directory as the typography file, like we can't just say import primary font from this current directory. Like that's not going to work. You actually do have to say typography in this case because it's in the same directory. And let's import our normalize function from Polished. Okay, let's get rid of this. So let's create a constant. Let's export it. Export const global style. And it's going to use create global style. 2 backticks. And in here, we're going to essentially write all of our CSS that we want applied globally. The first thing we want to do is normalize our code. So again, we've got our $ curly brackets to evaluate this. We're just going to call normalize, just like a function call. So that's going to normalize all of our code. I'm going to add a couple more things. So on our HTML element, let's first set font size to 16 pixels. So this is how you would set the default font size. And when we use our rem values, now they're going to be evaluated against the 16 pixels. We're going to do box sizing border box. So what this does is if you have padding and margin and you set a specific width and height, on, let's say I set a width of 300 pixels on my button. But I've also set, or let's say it's a max width, right? I've set max width of 300 pixels on my button, but I've also had like padding and stuff. What that's going to do, box sizing border box is going to say no matter what padding or margin or whatever is added to this element, it can be no bigger than 300 pixels. If you don't use this, sometimes when you add padding and margin, it might push the boundaries above the 300 pixels, and so this is really going to prevent that. It's going to say maximum, no matter what padding, margin, width, whatever you have on here, keep it within the box. Okay. Here we're going to select 3 things. We're going to select all before, and another pseudo element, which is after. We're just going to say box sizing inherit. So from the parent element, which in this case is HTML, just inherit that box sizing value. On our body, I'm going to set a margin of 0. And I'm going to set font family to our font family to our primary font. So all of our body content will inherit our primary font now. And the last thing, I'm just going to set this on my main just for display purposes, but I'm going to set a width of 90% and a margin of 0 auto. So it should center things. Okay. So we've got some global styles. We need to add this to our index export here so we can just import it from utils. So export star from global. So let's go ahead and actually use this. Let's go back to our index file in the source, in the root of the source where we instantiate all of our components. So import global, I'm going to call it global style from utils. And all you need to do as the last element is just render it. So global style, just like that. Just a self-closing tag. And if we come back here now, ideally, we should see that. Should be added. Let's test that real quick. Is this being added? Let's set a padding, I don't know. So yeah, we can see our global styles now being added. Okay.